It's Market Monday time. You know, all that talk all year long about prices crashing in 2022, it's the end of 2022. Prices went way up here. It's all about the local market. We'll talk about our local market this week, Market Monday. All right, it's that time. We got Garrett in today. Garrett, you look at the Bluffton numbers?
Inventory's down, but prices have increased about 26%, I believe. And another stat that I own a rental property, and so in that area, the rent is up over 55%. So if you're thinking about owning a home, even though prices are up 26%, if you're gonna pay for rent, you're paying almost double that increase in rent.
It's crazy. The cost of housing is crazy. But yeah, this week in Bluffton, 22 properties came on the market. We put 16 under contract. So that's one of those weeks. We haven't had many of them where we put more inventory on the market than we sold. Trend to pay attention to. That is a sign of a building market. I think this has happened for a grand total of 3 weeks this year though. So every other week it's been in the opposite direction. The price increase of 26%, that's certainly come down. I think, Preston, it was maybe 6 months ago, we were at 37, 38%, right? So that number's come down a little bit, but 26% year-over-year appreciation is a lot. And it looks like days on the market's starting to pick up. That was in the 30s as well. First time in a little while that we've seen the number hit 40. All that being said, did you see the article or the interview that NAR had with Lawrence Yun?
Yes.
What do you think about that?
What it gets to is that real estate is really more of a local market. You can't just paint a broad brush over the whole nation and say prices are all down across the nation. Certain areas, certain pockets of bigger cities, prices are down. But like in our market, once again, prices are up.
The national narrative was real estate prices are going to go down everywhere. We're beginning to see pockets where publications are starting to say, well, maybe not. Maybe there's areas that are going to see some positive. The article stated that the markets that they had an eye on where they expect to see prices go up, and they're calling for prices to go up across the nation by around 1%. But specific markets, Atlanta, Raleigh, Dallas, Fort Worth, Fayetteville, Arkansas, Greenville, Charleston, South Carolina, Huntsville, Alabama, Jacksonville, Florida, San Antonio, Knoxville. And one thing I find interesting is 5 of those 10, Atlanta, Raleigh, Greenville, Charleston, and Knoxville, are definitely markets where people in those markets own second homes here.
Yep.
And people are going to those locations because industry has gone to those locations and they can work in those locations or they can work from home in those locations. These people have left fairly high dollar real estate markets to come to these more affordable real estate markets, and they have money to spend. They can buy a home in Raleigh for less than half of what they would have paid for a home in Los Angeles or in New York City. And so they're doing that and they're moving, and then they have money for a second home. And we've seen not only people moving here permanently, but we've seen a lot of second home purchases here as well from these feeder markets.
And also coupled with just the home prices, the taxes are a lot lower in our area and some of these areas too. I hear that a lot from people moving from up north.
Yeah, so it's not just the acquisition cost that's a lot less. The actual cost to live here is a lot less than those other markets. There was an article in the Island Packet about County Council basically saying that they're not going to fund repairs to private roads.
Yes.
Duh.
Yeah.
Why would they do that?
If you own the property, you have to take care of it. You can't expect the county to take care of your own personal private property. They also said they will give you the option if you would like to sell the road back to the public, then they will fix it. But if it's your own private land, they're not going to fix your own private land.
Yeah, they're saying that the reason that they were considering doing it was to give emergency vehicles better access, but those things need to be the responsibility of the private property owner for sure. Last article that we looked at this week was, despite cooling U.S. housing market, Florida still top spot for Americans looking to move.
To Florida?
Why? Why is everybody so interested in Florida, Garrett?
Less taxes. They are not shutting down people's businesses as much.
So their approach to COVID?
You take care of yourself. And you're not going to control what you're doing.
I mean, they're a business-friendly environment, right? They have sales tax, so there's no savings there. But I think it all comes down to lifestyle, right? Like that is the major factor. I saw another article, I think it was in Fortune magazine from late last year, but the top states that people were moving to were Florida, Georgia, South Carolina.
Yes.
I think in that order. And so, you know, it's these warm weather, business-friendly states that people are moving to. And celebrities have talked about it. I've heard Joe Rogan talking about why he moved to Texas. And it was when COVID hit and the state was shutting down. He wanted to go to a place where there was less restriction.
Same thing with Elon Musk, where he moved his company out of California to Texas.
Nobody saw COVID coming, but man, did it change the world. This week's mailbag, Ricky asked, been watching and I heard your theory on why sellers aren't coming to market. Suppose rates go down over the holiday into January and February. Do you think we see a spike in inventory come spring bigger than usual? Should sellers be ready to go in case a big wave of properties starts to move the needle on prices?
Yeah, I mean, sellers should always be ready to go if that's what you want to do is sell. I think there's a lot of buyers still waiting to purchase. And I've also heard that, and this could be part of the big wave coming of sellers wanting to sell, is that 80% of home buyers in the last 2 years were unsatisfied with the home they got because they felt like they settled. Because everything was moving so fast, you had to put in a bunch of offers on different homes, and so they felt like maybe they settled for a home with certain things that they didn't want, and now they're kind of reevaluating what they did.
Yeah, property that they didn't necessarily want in a location that wasn't really their first choice. Yeah. So Ricky, my answer to this, I'm gonna break your question down into its parts. Suppose rates go down over the holiday until January and February. If you're paying attention to what the Fed is saying, interest rates are not going down. So the first thing is I just don't see that happening. Do you think we see a spike in inventory come spring bigger than usual? I don't think there's a spike in inventory coming in this market. I think that we had super low inventory coming into a season where the Fed wants to slow things down, and that further exacerbates a no inventory situation. Should sellers be ready to go in case a big wave of properties start to move the needle on prices? The properties that are gonna move in our market are the ones where people need to sell, not because of financial distress, but I think we might see some of that. I think some people that own second homes that see some issues in their income or see some issues in their life because it costs a lot more to live life. I think we could see some of those people putting their properties on the market. So needing to sell because of change in jobs, a change in lifestyle, something like that, I think we'll see some of that. But outside of that, I don't see a season where people say, I'm not in my dream house, I'm gonna sell my house and buy my dream house. I just don't think the market is favorable to that right now.
No.
What is it going to take to change the current environment? Anytime the federal government involves themselves in trying to create, what the Federal Reserve is calling a soft landing, they prolong the inevitable.
Yes.
Inflation is real. And the inflation is here because they put so much money into the economy. I mean, that's what caused the housing boom.
Yep.
So much money was pumped into the economy. It has to go somewhere. There's no simple way to fix that. It just has to run its cycle.
And I mean, like I said, some people are unhappy with the home they're in, but at the same time, so many people bought in the last 2 years. Do you really think that they're all of a sudden going to want to sell and have this whole process take over again?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you're saying. All these problems that we're talking about are truly first world problems.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
they don't like the pool that they have in their backyard, and their setbacks don't let them put a bigger one in.
Yeah.
Right? Like those are the problems that we're talking about here in our local market, and I just don't think that there's anything that's big enough that causes that to change. And it's just a cycle. It's just a season in the economy, and then it's a cycle. I think that until there's some significant changes from the political standpoint, I don't really see anything changing. So I don't see too much changing here in the next couple of years.
I agree.
Well, Garrett, thanks for stopping in. This is our last Market Monday of the year. We're going to finish up the year by a recap video. We're going to do a recap video on what the market brought us for this year and our predictions videos for what 2023 is going to look like. So thanks for ending it with me this year, and we'll see you next year. And we'll see you next year.